What's up guys, Motonosity here, and we've got another first ride for you today. If you watched my H2 first ride that I just put out last week, one of the top requested bikes was for me to ride ChaseOnTwoWheels' Daytona 675R. This is a 2017 Triumph Daytona 675R, a bike that is actually not even made anymore. But we're gonna ride it. If you're not following ChaseOnTwoWheels, I'll put his link down in the description to his channel. You guys should check him out. He does a lot of motorcycle videos as well, and he's had this Daytona for a little while now, and I'm really excited to ride it today because this is a bike that I actually seriously considered buying. We'll talk a little bit about that after we get out on the road, but I gotta figure out how to work this thing. All right, simple enough. Key is on. Regular old switch over here. Don't have a fancy slider like on the H2. I really like the dash. We got a little mix of analog and digital just like on my R6. Let's go ahead and start this bike up. What? There we go. Very nice. We got a good old time, miles per hour. We have a cheese. That fuel gauge is phenomenal. I don't understand why more motorcycle companies don't put accurate fuel gauges on their bikes. My old R1 2009 didn't have a fuel gauge except for when the light illuminated, you knew you had 25 to 30 miles left. Same thing for the R6. Nothing but a light that comes on with 25 miles left, or around there. On my 2015 R3 that we did for the previous build series, it at least has 5 or 6 bars. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that are illuminated. I'm guessing maybe 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 12 total bars to let you know how much gas you have. Not gonna lie, that is one of my favorite features on a bike. Seriously. Whew. This is very smooth. I gotta figure out where I'm going first. Why do we have some like Vaseline over here on the left mirror? I don't think that comes from the factory, so Chase, you have some explaining to do. Man. So there's a lot of there's a lot of interesting sounds coming from this bike that I'm not used to. It's like a, how do I even describe it? It's like a, I mean, you guys probably can hear it. It's like a slight whine, slight whistle. It's not, it's from the motor. Y'all hear that? It sounds like a pulley whine that you'd hear on a car. I kind of like it though. First things first, I need to get this thing on the highway. We need to do a quick daily 100. Ooh, nice. Once you start, so there's like, it's much more high pitched. Let's see, we're gonna go south on the highway. It's much more high pitched at low RPM, and then as soon as you get on it, that exhaust that Chase has on here gets nice and rumbly. Now maybe this is just in my head, but it seems to be a lot less vibrational. That's totally a word, go with it, than my R6. I like the sound. One of the bikes that I haven't ridden yet that I'd like to ride is the GSXR 750. This is actually the first non-600 or 1000, well, I guess if you count the Panigale at $12.99. That's not either of those either, but I haven't ridden anything between 600 and 1000 on a sport bike. Oh my goodness, Chase, why don't you put out more videos on this thing? I love that shift light. That is awesome. It's got like an escalating light here at the top, maybe like 5 LEDs right there that go on as you approach red line and then flash when it's shift time. Look at that. At least I'm assuming it's associated with You know what it seems like? So it's definitely not as it approaches redline. I'm wondering if he has the shift light set far lower. If that's the case, Chase, you need to fix that. But I assume it's adjustable, so you can change it to whatever RPM you want. But I really like that. Yeah, it's not associated with throttle. It's definitely associated with a specific RPM. And we've got a quick shifter on here. I did not mention that, but I have been using it. Now, where should I go? Because I do not want to sit in that traffic right there. Let's just chillax right here for a little bit. Bump up to 6th gear, and whew, that 6th gear is nice. Smooth, quiet, and that's even with the exhaust on here. So ChaseOnTwoWheels has a few mods on here, but nothing crazy. He's got an Aero, I believe it's a full system, an Aero exhaust on here, and a factory Triumph tune for the Aero exhaust. It's not, there's no flash on it, no power command or anything like that. It's just been retuned by Triumph. Other than that, it's stock, I guess, other than cosmetic things. There's a lot of carbon fiber that comes on this bike stock, and Chase has added a couple other carbon pieces here and there, but nothing really crazy. For the most part, it's a stock bike, kind of like just you can get from the factory. There's frame sliders and whatnot, and you know, a little better tail tidy kit on there on the rear, but pretty stock other than that. So this is a nice experience on this bike. But I don't even know if that really means a whole lot, because Triumph doesn't make the 675R anymore. I know, this is the first Triumph bike that I've ridden, but, now this is a big but, I actually wanted to buy a 675R way back in 2013 when I was getting my third motorcycle after my R6 was stolen, my first R6. I was looking at a bunch of different bikes, and one of the bikes I was looking at was a 675R. However, that year, Triumph came out with a new look, a new redesign on the look of these bikes. Not crazy, but it was a slight redesign. If I'm not mistaken, it was 2013. Could not stretch myself for buying a brand new Daytona back in 2013. So that's the reason that I didn't end up buying it, because I really didn't want to settle for the old design. I wanted the new one, but I really liked the 675R. I ended up buying an R1, but I always really kind of wanted to, you know, ride the 675, because I never like bothered to go do a test ride on it or anything like that, but I really liked them. I liked how they looked, and I liked the idea of having a, you know, 600 that wasn't a 600. But then something strange happened over the course of time. You know, I've stopped liking the look of these bikes. My goal here today is to decide if I should have gotten a 675R. Immediate answer is absolutely not, because my R1 was one of the best bikes that I've ever owned. And we're stuck in traffic. So how does a Daytona do in traffic? Well, it already feels hot. The rear seat, or not the rear seat, but the seat definitely feels narrower than on the R6. The R6 seat is pretty wide. But the weird thing is, if I'm not mistaken, the seat on this bike, the seat height is a couple inches lower than the R6, but it feels nearly identical. The thing I'm pretty surprised by a little bit is how narrow the bike feels. The R6 is really wide, like my legs stick out a little bit more, and the front of the bike, you know, what's right in front of you, feels much wider. This kind of feels a lot like a 300 class motorcycle. Not feels, but it kind of gives me the same kind of visual as a 300, because with those bikes it tries really hard to look like a bigger bike, so you end up with a lot longer of a front with a lot of empty space right in the middle here, because it kind of tries to make it look bigger, but it's not big, so you end up with a lot of empty space. That's kind of how it feels here, and I'm not quite sure why it's that way, but I feel like the front of the bike is way out in front of me. Let's see if people get mad here in Georgia about lane splitting. Here's downtown Atlanta. I don't think I've filmed downtown Atlanta since I moved here. Bike definitely gets a lot hotter. At least that's the impression. A lot hotter than the R6. Could also be because it's hot as basketballs out here. Don't mind this. This is not part of the bike, but we got a pass light right here. Got normal brights, blinkers, horn. Right side starter, kill switch. I don't think there's, it doesn't seem like there's any modes on here. I don't want to mess with the, well, you know what, let's screw it. Let's, got a trip meter, a lap timer, setup. Oh, miles to empty. What? If that's seriously a range meter, that is amazing. Oh, man, I love the sound on this thing. There's so much different from anything else that I've ridden. No, that's definitely looking like a range meter. That is awesome. All right, yeah, so two biggest first impressions on this thing. Much narrower than you would expect it to be. Narrower. That's a really weird word when you start saying it a lot. Narrower. And a lot hotter than you would expect it to be too. But yeah, as I mentioned, Triumph is not making the Daytona anymore. They kind of quietly discontinued it this year. 2017, if I'm not mistaken, was the last model year for the Daytona 675R. It's kind of been rumored that they're gonna bring it back as a 765, but there is nothing announced for 2019, so possibly 2020 is when we might see the return of the Daytona. That said, it is not cheap. Think about $14,000 on this thing, over 15 out the door once you're said and done, and it's still not a liter bike. Now Triumph says this thing produces 128 horsepower. Not sure what that would be to the wheel, but if we go with the standard 85% of whatever crank horsepower is, we're looking at about 110 horsepower, which is about what my R6 makes with all the mods and the tune done. And my R6, if I had to guess, is about 110 to 112 based on the outputs of similar bikes to mine. The interesting thing though is that it seems to be about as fast as the R6. Now I've been pestering Chase for a while now. I want to take my R6 out, put it up against the Daytona, really see how they pull against each other. So keep a lookout for that video. Make sure you're subbed if you're not already so you get notified. Well, maybe. Turn on that notification bell and maybe YouTube will tell you that I put out a video. Man, I love that sound. When you get on this thing, it's a lot lower than your typical 600, obviously, because it's not exactly a 600. Believe it or not though, this bike is about 15 pounds lighter than my R6. I don't know if it's just the RPMs and the exhaust note that just make it seem like it doesn't accelerate as fast. I just feel like when I'm on my R6, the RPMs climb so freaking quick. And this one, it feels like you're just waiting for that thing to get to red line. To say, it doesn't have that VTEC feel that my R6 does. If I were a betting man, I might say that the R6 is faster. I don't know what traffic is like. This looks absolutely awful. So that's gonna be it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video on the 2017 Triumph Daytona 675R. Another thanks to ChaseOnTwoWheels for letting me borrow this thing for a little ride. If you want to check out more of his videos, I'll have his channel link down in the description. If you're not subbed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you know when I release another video. You guys have been awesome. I've been Motonosity. Remember, life's better with horsepower. Keep life lived, and I will see you guys in the next one.